I honestly feel like I was robbed from this information for the majority of my life. Mainly just because of the way I was raised, where we grew up. We did grow up in a very archaic town, let's be honest. The people we grew up around, very archaic, just old school. And the public school that we attended, it was very work on your own, be quiet, and there were very few times that you worked with other people. The majority of it was work on your own. You want to do your whatever project, you can do it on your own with your friends. But at school, shut up, be silent, do your project, whatever, do the paper. And I don't, this is the thing is, humans are biologically, we're like collective. We desire to be part of communities. Like we have a strong pull to find some sort of community. And I think the biggest flaw in school is trying to force kids to work alone, because you can't accomplish anything alone. You can't accomplish mental health alone. You can't accomplish sobriety alone. You can't do anything alone. You can't build a family alone. You can't do anything alone. And that was the thing that pissed me off the most, was this idea that that was really just hounded on us in the public school system and in just my personal life, family, whatever. It was figure it out on your own. And it took me up until this last year, up until I was 27, where I figured out, holy shit, we are community creatures. We have to have a community to thrive. If you and I want to make $1 billion, you and I have to go find 3 more friends that want to make $1 billion. We've got to find people with the same goal, and we got to latch on, pull together, and be like, how are we going to do this? Because you can't do it alone.
Here's one thing that comes to mind is just in high school, my least favorite class, I don't remember exactly what it was called. It was the science of the small things, like the cells and all of that. I love big science. I hate small science. And so when it came to that stuff, I wasn't interested in it. I didn't care for it. And I was horrible at it. And so what I did is I had a friend in the same class and I copied his paper. I didn't learn anything in that class. But here's where it comes into what you were talking about is he was really good in that class. He enjoyed that thing. That was a strength of him. I know. And so where it comes to working together in life, you have weaknesses and you have people that are strong in your weaknesses. And so that's where it comes to complement each other. And so when it comes to did I need to know, the mitochondria in the cell and where it's located and all that crap to be successful in life? I don't think so. But what could have been more useful is absolutely me going to him, learning from him, using his strengths, using group settings in that area, which they didn't. And it was horrible. It was a waste of time, that class, for me. And I didn't learn anything it's just, group settings could benefit because you learn how life works. You learn how to rely on someone, how to use someone's strengths when you're weak,
Well, even a business, a church, anything you want to build, it doesn't matter. You have to have a conglomerate of people. You have to have a community. And isolation is the fastest route to self-annihilation. When you are depressed in your life and you're alone, that's the worst fucking time. But if you're depressed in life and you're around a lot of people, and see, this is the thing that I wasn't taught for a long time. I thought if I'm sad, I need to be alone and figure it out. And it's no, why was I taught that? That's wrong. That is completely wrong. And it goes back to the same as relationships. People are if you have a really shitty heartbreak or whatever, there's this mentality don't ever don't get into another relationship until you're healed, or spend time alone. And it's for a long time I believed that. I'm oh yeah, that makes sense. You should work on yourself before you get into and it's honestly, that doesn't entirely work. If you had a serious heartbreak, let's talk about a passing, let's talk about somebody dying. Being alone is the worst thing you can do for yourself. It's the worst thing you can do for your mental health. What's the best thing you can do? Get around people you love. Get around people that make you laugh. Get around your peers, your friends, the people that you enjoy being around. I mean, obviously there are the downsides of being around the wrong people who overindulge in vices. Obviously, there's that side of things. But when we're talking about friends that hang out, stuff that we used to do, go on bike rides, hang out, and shoot the shit on the couch and laugh at each other and just pop jokes, whatever. You can't you can't grow through things without a community. You can't build anything without a community. You can't make a business without more people. Like, you can make a business alone, it's going to be incredibly difficult. And when you finally want to automate that business so you can have more free time, you need people. And so I think the schooling system was, I mean, the way it was structured, and I know it's still super infant. There's still, like, the school system is still just being, like, developed. I think the way it was structured for our growing up was just aimed towards isolation. And it was one of the worst things we could have done for ourselves. Because
Well,
now I have to relearn how to, like, integrate myself into a community and
yeah.
understand that that's the most important thing.
Although I do think it is the weakness, I think that's was the best part of school was the social aspect
Mm-hmm.
because like in terms of the intellectual side, absolutely there wasn't really much social aspect. I mean, depending on the teacher, there were some great teachers out there that definitely encouraged you to cooperate and such. But I feel like for the most part, yeah, it's individualized. Um, but I feel like, and that's one thing like looking at the school system and things I disagree with, like I was like, oh man, I kind of want to homeschool my kids. But at the same time, I think the best aspect of school is the social aspect. I mean, like you and me, we probably wouldn't, be friends if it wasn't for school. And
Mm-hmm.
so the people you meet, the connections you make, the social interactions that are built at school, I think is, the strength that school has. But unfortunately, it's just I don't know. I don't think it's going in the right direction
Mm-hmm.
because from what I hear, they're taking PE out of schools. They're taking music programs out of schools. And you know what? That just it confused the crap out of the kids who want to be personal trainers. It confused the crap out of the kids who want to be musicians because now they don't have that option to explore those areas. And so that's what bugs me is I don't think it's progressing in the right area. I think it's going downhill because it used to have more options and now they're eliminating those options for kids to explore these things in
Mm-hmm.
directions that they can take their careers.
Well, especially with PE, like physical education, I think that's just something that, like, we grew up as basically a requirement, which I am incredibly grateful for. Um, I mean, training at a young age, like working out at a young age, I think that's something that every child needs to just have a part of their life. I mean, let's be honest, how early are you going to start training your kids? Like, as soon as they can start fucking running. Like,
One day old.
yeah, like, even as an infant, you're training them. Like, you're pushing their legs back. Like, you're personal, like, physical education is one of the most important things just for mental health in general. But yeah, that's something. The idea of taking that out of school, taking music programs out of school, I feel like that was mostly threatened a lot of the time, from what I hear. I mean, we grew up hearing it threatened towards our school. Like, oh, if we don't get the proper funding, whatever, like, we're going to have to remove these programs. We're going to have to remove these, which I don't know why they would do that. I know that there are some schools that have removed those programs due to funding or whatever, but it's like, dude, replace a lot of the math teachers, man. Not to be disrespectful, but like I think the arts are more important than a lot of the other useless fundamental shit. Like, don't get me wrong, I love math. I use math every single day, but I don't use that much math. Like, I code and I don't use that. I use math, but I like not that much. Not
Yeah.
12 years worth of
Well,
mindless math.
and that's what I'm saying is just like, yeah, as much math is required is like only people diving into those careers will use that much math. And as much science is required is like I was saying, dude, why do I need to know the cells unless I'm diving into a career that needs to know that? And so there's some things just like why, and those are all in high school. So
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to my point, as in I believe elementary and middle school should be more fundamental based, while high school should be more elective based. You should like I don't need to know those cells unless I want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to know that math unless I'm going to be in a career that requires that. And so it should be more elective based in high school, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I feel a lot of it is just wasting time. It's a conglomerate of mindless time. Because especially now looking at how fast I can learn a skill, like how fast we can learn something. I learned how to code in technically, I learned 16 hours, 19 hours and 40 minutes to really iron it out, to like feel good in Python. It took me 19 hours and 40 minutes to like, okay, I've got this. And I look at that and that pissed me off like a lot. I'm like, holy shit, I could have learned this when I was in 6th grade. 20 hours, just 20 hours. And if a fresh brain like that, with so many like empty spaces ready to be filled, like what the fuck was I filling it with? Like, shut up, be silent, like look at your piece of paper and fill it out over and over, the same shit over and over. Like, how many times did I do mad minutes in the first fucking grade? Like, why? Why did I do those so aggressively? And it's like, why don't we fill this time with actual growth, with like pursuing all of these other things? And when you find something that your brain's like, I like that, like I have an affinity to that, why not give that kid this space and fill it with a conglomerate of that information with 3 or 4, 5 other kids that are the same, and allow them to work together. Be like, here's your guys' project. You 5 are going to group together. Here's what I want you guys to create together. Bro, that would have been so exciting and so much fun, because those were the best times in school, when you got to work with your friends, when you got to build something with your friends. That was the most exciting time. You're like, yeah, I got to hang out with my homies. I got to talk shit, like, and build something. We got to get this project done, but like, we're going to build a community around this. And that's how life works. So, not to shit heavily on, public school, but
I do have to say, even talking bad about school, I do appreciate it that it does have, that we have electives. That's amazing in itself. Heck, if it wasn't for choir that I was in, I wouldn't have found the passion for music probably that I have now. And if it wasn't for the pull-up bars that were at all the schools, I wouldn't have found the fitness passion that I have. And so, although I do think it could get better, it's not the worst, right? We still do have those electives. And here, as it is, I would say if school continues the way it is and you have good parents, I think they can be really successful. If the parents pick up where the school lacks and showing your kids all the options they have and finding their passions with them, I think parents could definitely pick up where it lacks. And so it's all right where it is, but it definitely can get better, because to allow more, I don't know why we don't dive into education more as a country. Like, if we want a successful country, like, shouldn't we want people thriving in the best areas they can thrive? Or do we want a country where we're all just like idiots and they could control us? I don't know.
Especially after reading that book, Outwitting the Devil, the whole idea of drifters and how 98% of people are drifters, part of me kind of has this belief that, like, oh, it's inevitable. Like, there's always going to be the people that just mindlessly participate but aren't actually participating. Sure. And are just drifting in life.
But let's give those 2% the best options they have.
Let's give them a chance to meet each other. Let's give them a chance to find each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest thing for me. This is something I was talking to Kaylee about last night. I was quiet for a little while, and she could tell that I was thinking pretty deeply, and she's like, what are you thinking about? And I was like, if I want to accomplish my dreams, I need 3 more of Adam. She was like, what do you mean? And I was like, it was difficult, growing. And in general, I'm so grateful that you and I were friends so early, and we continuously pushed each other in the areas that we did in fitness, intellectual, like, we really just challenged each other. But if we had 3 other friends just like us, like, and I told her, I was like, my goal is to find 3 more friends like us. I want 3 more that are just like us, that intellectually challenge me. I want 3 more friends just like us that intellectually challenge and stimulate me. I need people that intellectually stimulate me that I can talk to on a regular basis. Because the number one reason why I've fallen out with the majority of people that I have is they don't intellectually stimulate me. Like, they don't, like, there's nothing intellectually that I can, like, converse about. Like, you and I, we just keep going. We keep pushing.
This is a
And
big for years this topic has been on my mind because I mean like the years we weren't talking, we weren't talking a lot for a bunch of years before we started this podcast and started talking frequently. But that's been on my mind is just like I felt alone. I'm like
Mhm,
I don't have anyone that's on the same wavelength as me that likes a challenge, that likes ambition and wants to improve themselves. Just like every friend I had, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of amazing friends I made,
mhm,
but no one that pushed me and no one
mhm,
that like I could have intellectual stimulating conversation with that I was like yes and like the ideas that they say are really good and are able to bring out better ideas in myself and it was hard and it was almost honestly kind of depressing because uh I'm like how many of them exist, do they exist, where are they, and
yeah.
it was hard.
And see, that's something I've been thinking about recently is like, how am I going to find three more that we can group together that can just push each other? Because let's be honest, like, we've got some big ass goals, like, we've got some big dreams, places we want to go. And we are going to need more. Like, we're going to need those people. And you should have a group of five friends. Like, you should have a group of 4 or 5 friends that really challenge you in the areas that you're growing in. And granted, I like there are things that I do that you don't do. There are things that you do that I don't do, but we can still challenge each other in those areas. Like, you do music and I can still challenge you in music. I'm like, this is great.
Sure.
I don't know anything about this, but this sound right here, if you could change this and like alter this, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna change this up. I give a little challenge and you're able to just create masterpieces off the little information that I have. And we do have areas that we like coincide in. Intellectually, we're able to really challenge each other. The books that we get to read and like, dude, you got to try this one. You got to read this one. That the exchange rate of that information is so incredibly valuable to me. And it's something that I wish I had with any other friend, as many other friends as I could. And I realized that's been my biggest problem over the last couple of years is like, I don't have any other friends that read. Like, and if they did, they'd probably still be my friends. Like, not to be a dick, but like homies will
Yeah.
hit me up. They're like, "Hey man, I miss you." I'm like, "I miss you too." And in my head, I'm like, "I wish you would read. Like, we'd have something to talk about."
Well, shoot, I don't know how to find them. That seems like a hard thing, but hey, if you find them, let's throw them
Well,
on the podcast. We'll add them. We could have 5 people on here.
that would actually be kind of dope. We'd have to probably all get together and like sit in a room and talk shit, shoot
Oh,
the
sure,
shit.
yeah.
But that's something I've been thinking about recently is we need more people like this. Because I think about a lot of the friends that we grew up with. We've had a lot of people like come and grow in like our group, in our social group. All great people, all amazing people, funny, good people. And I think about it, I'm like, how many of them like intellectually stimulated me? A number of them, but then how many of them fell off? Like, how many of them sold their soul to whatever their vice was and just
Yeah.
gave up the intellectual stimulation? All of them. Like, as many of them as I could find. And not to be a dick, like, it's just people have their own routes as well. There's other people that maybe self-educated, but they went somewhere else. They just completely different direction. We just don't talk anymore. It is what it is. But that's something that I do want to focus on is finding more of essentially you. Just more people that can challenge us. Because we had that group of friends as a kid that played video games. We were like, oh yeah, we all play video games, have fun. That's fine. That's cool. And then there's a part of like, all right, we're getting intellectual. And then like these friendships they start fading out to whatever else they're doing. Some of them go off and do their own thing, and that's fine. But that is something that I've been thinking about. That's my goal. That's my new goal is finding more people that can fit our group because people that work out and are intellectual, which is a little
Yeah.
difficult.
It's like motivation because everyone finds motivation and it's like I don't know, maybe people that would watch our videos and stuff, it's like okay, that was a cool idea, but how many people are gonna like thrive in that and maintain that motivation and that discipline and continue working out and continue reading the books and continue watching the intellectually stimulating content? It's just the they're very few, and
Mhm.
so it's a challenge and I don't know where to find them. I don't know.
I mean, for us, something that I do appreciate is the fact that we're not 100% successful in our intellectual space. Like we stopped reading books for a while, for like a couple months. Like we fell off.
Sure.
I fell off. You fell off on the books.
Sure.
And last year we were really good. Sorry, my cat's being ridiculous. No, we were doing really well, and we had our time where we like both fell off. I can fully admit that the first chunk of this year I wasn't reading. And I mean, the main thing I want to get at is like, we didn't stop trying. Like, even though we failed, we didn't stop trying. And I know we're reading again. I know both of us are reading again. I know you're reading again. I mean, the last time we spoke was a couple weeks ago, and you were like, I got this book and this book that I want to like start diving into. Same with me, dude. I finally got pissed off and started blasting through books. I was like, fuck, I need to keep reading. So
I think that's the point, is the desire never dies.
yeah.
You know, I may fall off and not read for a month, but and that's I guess the benefit of the group is just holding each other accountable. Like if you got on my butt and say, freaking get on reading, I'm like, okay, you're right. I need to do that. I want to do that. And we all get distracted and we all, fall away a little bit, but it's just that desire never dies. The flame is maintained, it keeps up. So
Well, on that subject of reading, because there's something that plays through my head, and it's like, it was this quote, and I don't know if this statistic is accurate, but I loved it. And it was 98%, I think it was 90% or 98% of millionaires and billionaires read at least 50 books a year. And I love that. And I'm like, yes, I love that. So I've had that in my head over the last 2 years. And this year I was like, shit, I need to catch up. Like, I need to catch up because I fell off for a bit and I'm not on track for 50 books a year. And so now I'm like, all right, we need to catch up. And so I'm reading a lot of the shorter books, just the ones that I really liked, that I enjoyed, that were maybe 100, maybe 150 pages. I'm like, I can double up a week. I can start doubling up. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, just like trying to like catch up. And I know you've been reading, so real quick, what books have you delved into in the last couple of weeks? I know we haven't talked in a bit.
So the last couple of weeks I've been reading The Fifth Mountain by Paulo Coelho, because I really like The Alchemist, and that's one of his books. So I don't know. I really enjoyed the Fifth Mountain. I wouldn't say as much as The Alchemist, but I think it also depends on where you are in life. Because I would say The Fifth Mountain is a book for you if I think we talked about it before. There comes a point where you're attempting to reach a goal and it feels like you're not making any progress anymore. That is the moment I feel like you should read The Fifth Mountain, because it's about faith. And the whole, not to spoil the book or anything, but it's about Elijah. If you know the story of Elijah in the Bible, he basically takes the few verses that are in the Bible, and then he creates a whole story out of it. But basically, if the story of Jacob in the Bible, the whole premise of there's a point where Jacob wrestles with I don't know if they say it's the Lord or an angel, and that's basically, the angel says, like, you won or whatever, and Jacob says, I will not let you go until you bless me. And that's the whole concept of the book, is you have to wrestle with God. And once you wrestle enough, God has no choice but to bless you, but you have to deserve that. You have to wrestle with him. And so that's the whole point of the book. And it's a really cool book because he just goes through this big, struggle. And so that's why I say, if you get at a point in your life where you're trying to reach a goal and you're just not quite there yet, but you're trying, and that's where you want to read that book. So, but yeah, that's I was reading another one. I can't remember what it was though. Before that, was it Outwitting the Devil? Oh no, it was The Subtle Art. The Subtle Art I read before that. Yeah. So, I think those are the 3 books I read this year so far. Was The Alchemist, The Subtle Art, and now The Fifth Mountain. And I don't know. I just finished The Fifth Mountain today, so I might maybe Think and Grow Rich next. I might grab that one.
Dude, that's a banger, dude. I don't know how many times I've read that. I have it written down. I think I've read that one like a total of like 8 or 9 times.
Shoot.
Bro, it's good. It's
Oh,
so good. Um, I mean, Outwitting the Devil was a banger, but I'm gonna tell you straight up, Outwitting the Devil is not as much of a banger as Think and Grow Rich. That one's like,
really? Dude, I
yeah,
loved Outwitting the Devil. The ideas in that book are insane. So
yeah. Have you started 48 Laws?
no, dude, it's in my. I don't know if you could see. Those are my books I need to read right
Okay,
there.
yeah.
That stack right there. So it's in my pile. I need to go through that pile. But
Bro, I'm
it's
reading.
actually 48 Laws is the bottom one. So I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe that'll be the last one I get to. Unless you think I should read it next, I'll read it next.
Um, my manager actually, I was talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, I'll get it." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like, wait up, because I always like to give people a disclaimer before reading that book, because I'm reading it for the second time right now. I love the book. I
Yeah.
love that book. But it's dark as fuck. Like, it is dark as fuck, dude. I'm now because the first time I just read it like physical copy, and it was really hard. It took me weeks and weeks and weeks to actually like finish it. And now I'm doing audiobook along with reading it. And for some reason, audiobook is like so much brighter. When it comes to that book, I'm like, oh, this book is lovely. Like these stories are great, not as dark. Um, but there's a lot of stories in there that that'll hit you, be like, oh shit. You have to like take a second. You're like, that was fucking dark. Like that was really brutal. She killed that many people, including her child, to obtain power. Holy shit. Um, but there's a lot of stories in there that will blow your mind. That you'll just be like, holy shit, that guy obtained. Like, there's a young prince in there that was able to take a myriad of kingdoms. And there was this one king that didn't like the idea of this prince taking all of this power across these kingdoms and having all of these other kings basically submit to him. And this kid, this like young prince or whatever, was able to take this angry king who was like, I'm gonna march on this, this young prince castle. I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like, I'm not gonna submit to him. And this kid was able to make him submit his entire kingdom. And he didn't kill a single one of his men.
Hmm.
Not a single one of his, and this guy marched on him with like 10,000 men. And the prince didn't kill anybody and was able to make this man completely surrender. And the way he did it, you're like, oh shit. Like, that's brutal. Uh, there's a lot of stories in there that really good. Like Robert Greene's ability to talk about history is beautiful and tell you stories that you wish you would have heard. Because like history was boring as fuck in school. Like public school, I hated history, man. I was like, this is the dumbest fucking class. And they were so vague. You're like, oh, Napoleon won so many like battles. You don't know why. You don't know how, but apparently he won all these battles, whatever. You hear about all of these great leaders and you don't hear the actual stories of like what they did. And Robert Greene goes into deep detail. And some of it you're like, oh shit, that guy was dark. Like that guy was real dark. And
Hmm.
some of them you're like, that guy was an absolute genius. The abilities of these leaders. And so disclaimer, it can get really dark, but the stories in there will change your life forever. Like that you'll never be the same after reading that book. Like you'll be able to obtain a dark amount of power. It'll be up to you to use it if you want some of the stories. Some of the stuff in there is like you're like, not all of it's dark. I'd say half of it's dark, half of it's like really just intelligent. Like don't piss off the people above you. Like Andrew Tate's doing right now. He's very good at like pissing off the higher powers, and he just keeps
Oh, yeah.
doing it. Because in the book it talks about how they will fucking kill you. Like they don't care. Which we'll see how that plays out.
Gosh.
But I read
Yeah.
the motive last week. It took me like less than a day. Not even. It was 2 hours. I read the motive. I split it up into 2 days, 1 hour one day and 1 hour the next day. I don't know if you've heard of that book.
wonder if it's on my list to get.
It might not be. I don't know. It's one of the books that Alex Ramosi recommends.
I
I
don't
wouldn't
know.
recommend it unless you plan on being a CEO or honestly just a CEO at some point in time. I had to like really decide if the book was going to apply to me or not after reading it. I read it and I was like, wow, that was a good book. And I really had to sit down for a bit. It's a good book, but I would only recommend it. I mean, it does tie into everybody. It's really good. It's a good book. It's super quick and easy, but I wouldn't like it only applies to you if you plan on managing a lot of people or hiring a lot of people or working with a lot of people and managing them. It's really good in that aspect. But yeah, I've been rereading the 48 Laws of Power, and now I'm reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Really good. Put that on your list if you haven't. If you haven't read that one yet,
What is it?
that
The
one's a banger.
Psychology of Money?
The Psychology of Money. That is a banger, dude.
Oh, my
I'm only
list
a
is so big.
I know. See, but this is good. We are always adding more books. I wish we had more friends like us.
So many books.
I'm literally only a fifth through The Psychology of Money. I started yesterday. I'm a fifth of the way through, and I'm like, yo, this book is good. It's really
Hmm.
good. It's just, yeah, we'll get into that way later. I don't have enough under my belt from that book to actually give too much of a premise. I've only read the first little bit, and I'm like, fuck, this is good. That's always the best feeling. When you start a book and you're like, this is going to be good. That's the best feeling.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, going back to your bulking real quick, I was going to ask you a couple of questions about that. I know that you said that you'd like been feeling sick or whatever every so often with your dieting. Um,
Yeah.
are are you taking creatine every day and including on your days off?
Yep.
For you are okay.
I take like 7-ish grams of creatine.
Yeah,
So
can't remember the actual.
yeah, protein and creatine I haven't faulted. It was when I was getting to the uh, part of my bulk where it's just like, okay, I got to add more food now to make sure I'm staying above it. And I started getting experimental, adding oils into things, and I just started getting sick for some reason, and so it got
Were you,
ugly, and then that's where I
were
got
you
dirty. And
were you eating more fried food?
I'm trying to remember if I got sick before or after I started like cheating. I can't remember. I honestly can't. It's been like a month or two. And
Mm,
so I don't know. Maybe I started cheating on the diet, and uh, because I wanted to get more calories in, and thus it caused me to kind of get sick. I don't know.
gut
I
biome.
have to think about it. But the moral of the story is just I don't know. Keep clean, I guess.
Yeah.
Keep it healthy bulk, because then you'll gain less fat and you'll feel better. And
Mhm.
yeah,
I think that's one of the hardest things with bulking is maintaining a healthy gut biome because you've got people like Sam Sulik out there who just eats like shit, dude. And kid's got an iron gut. An iron gut. I see what he eats and I'm like, bro, how the fuck do you not feel like shit, bro? He's done better.
yeah,
He's done a lot better in recent time. But you watch his like a lot of his stuff, you're like, you're eating how much Captain Crunch? Like how much milk? Chocolate milk? Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Maintaining a healthy gut biome when bulking is is incredibly important just because like you had been experiencing the nauseousness, that kind of stuff can really take you out. Can really like fuck with your lips, fuck with like your general overarching health. Like it can really just kind of fuck with it quite a bit. And you said you were thinking of possibly doing a cut or a shortcut. How short of a cut do you want to do if you were to switch over to a cut?
Oof. See, that's a good question because I would feel like I would feel it out, and
Mhm.
I definitely want to cut some of the body fat I gained, but I don't know. Every time you enter a cut, it's just like, okay, how can I do this where I maintain the most muscle and the most strength? And that's the hardest part. Is like I don't want to lose any of that, and so I'm gonna really be careful and gentle with this. It's just like I'm starting changing each meal to kind of slowly enter that cut. Um, I don't know. It could be a month. It could be 3 months. It could be 6 months. It could be. I don't know. I'm just gonna feel it out. Feel how I feel. And like when I'm like I need a bulk again. I need a bulk. I'll change to bulk. But I'm more so excited for a cut to more emphasize endurance based training without worrying about it affecting my you know strength gains and such. So I'm gonna definitely experiment with that. That's what I'm excited for.
Mhm.
Calisthenics come back. I haven't done calisthenics in a long time.
Would you consider a carnivore based cut, not carnivore diet, just not, but a carnivore based?
I'm honestly shying more away from meat. I'm not gonna
Right.
lie, because I've been studying Brian Johnson or looking into him. The guy
Oh
that
yeah,
wants to live forever.
I guess
Some people call a vampire, but he doesn't eat meat.
Mhm.
He's vegetarian. He hired dozens of scientists to create that diet essentially.
Mhm.
And so I've honestly been having his nutty pudding. I've been eating that the past few days, which it's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it's good tasting nor bad tasting, but it is
Mhm.
interesting. Um, but honestly, I think what happened with my bulk is I kind of got sick. Dude, cooking food for me is a pain. I hate it
Mhm.
because I am really meticulous and organized, right? So when I want to order like 10 things off of a list when I go to the grocery store, have them there, done. Meal prep the same thing every week. I want it nice and simple, organized like that. But that's the problem. It can't be that way because then you're going to get sick of some foods and it's going to get bad, which my bulk did, and where I reverted to cheating and causing myself to get sick.
Mhm.
So, and where I was going with that was I was doing a plentiful of meat, and because of that I still kind of get sick to the idea of um like certain steaks, the way you cook it. Just
Mhm.
thinking about it, I'm like, ugh. Or even just the chicken, because I had it every day.
Mhm.
And I'm just gonna have to experiment and figure something out, because I don't know, that bulk, it messed me up. When I started cheating, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you gotta, and that's where I'm excited to dive more into nutrition, to kind of learn about things so I could organize things and figure it out for myself.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
When I'm over there, dude, just let me cook. I'll cook for you, dog. Just let me cook and see if you like it, if it helps. And if it helps your gut, if it helps your stomach, sweet. If it doesn't, don't ever like repeat the shit that I do. But I
Well, my
I
my gut's better now that I'm not in the surplus. It's when I was in the surplus of crappy food, that's where my gut
Mhm.
was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So,
Especially when I'm like eating like Jack in the Box shit like that, that's when my body's like, oh, we're feeling it, bro. Like this don't feel too good when I'm eating like the tacos and shit. Um, but yeah, when it comes to carnivore based, how I structure it is it's like 80% meat and then like 20% fruits and some grain. Um, Typically just rice. Just because like I cook the rice and beef broth. like, it's still very meaty. It's still like mostly meat. Uh, but yeah, I mean, what I eat sounds boring as fuck. Like if I were to tell you, like, yeah, I eat 1.5 to 2 pounds of ground beef every single day, you're like, that's fucking lame, dude. but it's delicious if you cook it right. A lot of people don't add enough seasonings. They don't add enough like other things. I also eat avocados with it or guacamole. Are you a guac guy or no?
I like guac, yeah.
Okay, okay. Can't remember who it was. Oh, it was my other homie. He's allergic to guac. I remember now. Sad, sad story. But you'll have to let me cook some meats a good way. I cook some delicious meats, man. Some bomb ass meats. So
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the ground beef sounds good to me. It's just like steak right now. I don't know why, but it gives me like the because I cooked it so much, I guess, that I don't know. I got sick.
How were you? What kind of steak were you doing? Were you doing like ribeye? Were you doing New York strips? Were you doing chuck? What were you doing?
The cheapest grocery store had.
Bro, you were doing chucks. Motherfucker. That's why. You son of a bitch.
I don't like spending a lot of money.
My guy. If you're going to eat steak, I'm going to reprimand you for this one. Because Raymond reprimanded me for this one for a long time. If you're going to eat steak, a steak in general, you got to get good quality. Because if you don't get good quality, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be chewing on it for 3 hours. You're going to be like, this is horrible. It's not going to absorb any flavor. There's 2 steaks you should only eat, in my opinion. You can, veer from this. But ribeye with a really good marble, like a really good marble of fat throughout, ribeye steak or New York strip. Ribeye absorbs flavor very well, and it's tender. It like melts in your mouth. It's super, super juicy. New York strip has a little more meaty taste, meaty flavor, so it gives you that like carnivore feel, but it's also very tender if you get it marbled. You've been buying chuck steaks, you motherfucker. So you say cheap, I know exactly what you're buying. You're buying chucks. And the only way you can cook a chuck is for 8 hours until that bitch falls apart. Then you can eat it.
I don't know.
Let me cook some good steaks for you, okay? Let me make some bomb dank steaks.
Ground beef scares me though, because even now, studying nutrition is just some of the things. I mean, meat is so laid back when it comes to the FDA and such. Like they could throw so much crap in there and still get it approved, and it's kind of horrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
You look at some of the things, the preservatives and whatever they'll put in there, or to add mass to it so they could sell it for more and yada yada, and it's just. And then I try to get grass-fed stuff when I do, but like that stuff's pricey. So I need to get back into the meal prep game.
Let me cook you a good steak. You'll never go back to cheap steaks. You'll be like, what the fuck have I been doing? I hated steak for years. The majority of my life, I hated steak. Did I tell you this story? When I had a good steak, finally? It was funny as hell. I hated steak, refused to eat steak for years. And Raymond works at a butcher block in Caldwell. And I remember he called me, he's like, hey man, I've been marinating these steaks for us all day. And I'm like, dude, I don't fucking like steak. I don't eat steak, man. I don't like it. He's like, no, you're gonna like these steaks, man. He's like, it's fresh cut of ribeye. He's like, I've been marinating them underneath the refrigerator for like 3 hours. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, dude, they're gonna be perfect. And I come over to his grandma's house, and it's middle of summer, right? And he has them in this package, and he's like, dude, these are gonna be so good. And he walks out to the yard, the front lawn, and he places this package in the middle of the yard. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, we're gonna go play some video games. And he just leaves it there. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, don't worry, man, these steaks are gonna be delicious. And he sets a timer on his phone for 45 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell? So we go inside, we're playing video games, and his phone goes off, the timer goes off. He's like, oh, the steaks are ready, man. And I was like, you're on crack, dude. I am not touching these steaks. You're crazy. He's like, no, mate, you gotta trust me. He goes out there, he grabs this package of steaks from the lawn, and he walks inside. I was like, Raymond, I'm gonna eat something else. I'm not eating these steaks. Like, I hate steak in general. I don't want this, and you're crazy. He's like, you just gotta trust me, man. We go into the kitchen. He gets a pan out, puts a bunch of butter on it, and I'm like watching him. He grabs a Corona from the fridge and cracks it open and starts drinking it. And I was like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, this is crazy. And he throws the steaks in. They're like searing real good. And he's drinking this Corona and he just pours this Corona over the steaks. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, you just need to trust me, man. I was like, no, I don't trust you. You're crazy. He's like, you never had a beer battered steak? And I was like, no, that's terrible. And he flips these steaks over and he's cooking them on high. And so there's this like nice caramel crisp on them. And I can smell them. And I'm like, this actually smells kind of good. I'm like, but I'm still not eating this. Still not eating this. And he finally gets some plates out. And he had this seasoning, this Spadel ranch seasoning that he had marinated them in. And he finally pulls these steaks off the pan, puts them on these paper plates, and he hands me my paper plate. And I'm like looking at the steak. I'm like, dude, I don't like steak. Like, I hate steak so much. I sit down, dude. I take my fork and it slides right into the steak, like, beautifully. Like, I didn't have to push it or anything. It just slides in effortlessly. And I was like, what the fuck? Take my knife, cut it. And I was like, I'll take one bite of this thing. Dude, I took one bite. It was the most delicious fucking steak I've ever had in my life. I was like, what the fuck? Destroyed that steak. And I was like, can we go get like 2 more, bro? And he's like, yeah, we can, bro. We can. And I was so confused. I was like, why was that so good? He's like, nobody cooks a steak right. And he's like, I work in a butcher block. I know exactly how to cook a steak perfectly. And I was like, what all did you do? Like, what the fuck? He's like, there's just some stuff that you gotta know about cooking a good steak and the right cut of meat, how long to marinate it, how long to let it sit. He's like, people try to cook steak and it tastes like shit, super chewy, and it has no flavor. And I was like, dude, that was the most delicious fucking steak I've ever had in my life. And it was so weird, like seeing that thing in the lawn and I'm being like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? But he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. The reason he let it sit on the lawn was he was letting it get to room temperature. So he's letting it bring the temperature up to like warm essentially before cooking it. And it makes the meat relax. So if you try to cook a steak cold, it's tough. It stays really tough and you have to saw through it with a fucking knife. So we got the steak knives or whatever, but when you let it rest to get to that room temperature, it's like relaxed. So when you cook it, it's relaxed. And then when you actually like pull it off, and the beer itself, the alcohol caramelizes into a sugar instead of alcohol. And you cook it like with a Corona or a Coors Light. Bro, this kid knew what the fuck he was doing. My whole life was changed after that. And I was like, I'm kind of a slut for steaks now. And I don't think I've cooked a beer different since then. I always cook it the same now, just like that. It's so fucking good. You got to do it right. If you don't do it right, it's rough. It's a hard time. I've tried cooking chuck steaks. I've thought, because it was soon after that, I was like, I'd cook a chuck like that. I tried cooking a chuck like that. Nah, dude, you got to like, for me, I'll do chuck roasts, but I'll stick them in the oven for 5 hours when I cook them. Literally, like 5 hours. I'm not joking.
Dude, the best steaks I've ever had was in Brazil, and their process is a lot simpler to cook in it. They have these big outdoor ovens, basically, or yeah, where they shove the whole freaking cow basically on a stick and put it in there, and they kind of just like let it rotate. And you know what they put on it? They take limes and they squeeze the limes juice all over it, and then they have this like rock salt, and they just throw this rock salt on it, and that's it. That's all they do, and it's the best meat I've ever had in my life.
That sounds intense. How long did they have it in there for?
It's like, have you been to Brazilian Grill?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like kind of as the meat gets done on the outside, they kind of cut it and then let the meat on the inside kind of cook a little bit, and so they kind of just eat it as time goes and let it cook. And
interesting.
But it depends. Like, I've never liked a raw, or not a raw, but a rare steak. And then like I had one there, and it was like, holy crap, this is the best steak I've ever had.
When you have a good rare steak, dude. Raymond was the only person who got me to eat like a raw rare steak. And I was very hesitant. I was like, But when you have it made right, it's fucking delicious. When you have the right cut, if you're trying to cook the wrong cut of meat, you're gonna be miserable, bro. You're gonna have a hard time. You can be chewing on it for 30 minutes.
That was me every day. I would have what did I cook my steak with? I had that steak with lentils. I think I had it with lentils and Brussels sprouts. That was my meal.
How? How, bro?
And spinach.
Let me cook you a dank steak, dude. I'm gonna change your life. I'm gonna change your life.
Here's the thing: is like I hate broccoli. I wish I loved broccoli because I know it's a superfood. I know it's crazy good for you, but I can't handle broccoli. I tried it. So Brussels sprouts are in the same food group, and so I've been trying Brussels sprouts, and they have the same taste as broccoli, and so it's just like I tried to make it work, but it didn't really work. I don't know, man. Food's crazy. I want it to work. I want to eat healthy, but I just like, man.
When you eat chicken, do you eat chicken breast?
Yeah, I like to eat chicken thigh though, but mostly chicken breast just because it's dominant. But there's a few recipes I like to do thigh with.
Thigh is better. It has more fat, so it absorbs flavor a lot better, and it's kind of closer to a red meat, so it just tastes a lot better. Chicken breast, it's hard to cook because it's always so fucking dry, and it doesn't really absorb flavor at all. So it's miserable. Like if you try to eat chicken breast every day, you're gonna kill yourself. Like you're gonna be like, this is the worst fucking thing in the world. But chicken thigh can be like, if you cook it right. Honestly, it's very hard to screw up chicken thigh, in my opinion. You can cook it salt and pepper, and it's still delicious. Chicken thigh is so good. But, yeah, when I come over, we're doing steak. We're doing some steaks. I'm going to throw it on the lawn, too. I'm going to be there mid-May. We're just going to do the same shit.
It's going to be hot, though.
I know, that's the point.
I thought it was room temperature you wanted to, not 90 degrees.
It's going to be slightly warm before we throw it on.
Little pre-cook.
Little pre-marinade, dude. It'll be good. Trust me, I thought it was crazy, but
we'll see.
It'll be the one time a beer will be in your home, and it's just to use to cook the steak. We'll get like a Coors or something shitty. Something real shitty. Oh. Motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't believe in alcohol.
You what?
I'm about to... The next chapter I'm getting to in my certified nutrition coach is alcohol, so I am excited for that to see what it has
alcohol
to say.
Is just straight poison. Andrew Huberman actually has a good little segment on alcohol where he talks about how your body has to convert it to, because it's already poison the way it is. So alcohol in the form that it is poison to your body, and your body has to convert it into this secondary poison before it can convert it into like an empty sugar. And so alcohol in general is just, it's not good. But if you cook it, it just turns straight into a sugar. And so it can caramelize things really well. But by itself should not be consumed. It's not advisable in any amount. No amount of it is healthy for the body. Which I know a lot of people, like, oh, my doctor said it's healthy to have a small amount of...
What is it, the red wine theory or whatever?
That's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not good for you. Alcohol's bad for you. There's no... Like, oh, it has antioxidants or whatever the fuck. No amount. None. No amount of alcohol is good for you. But, let's see where we're at. I guess we should go over goals.
Sure.
You down, skis? I'm serious, dude. I'm cooking you a steak when I get there.
Is that the goal?
Yeah,
that's your goal.
Ribeye for Adam.
We'll see. I'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
On our podcast.
I'm gonna call Raymond up right as I start it.
Get him up. Get him to cook it for us in the lawn.
Yeah, dude. He's gonna change your life with it. All right.
I'm trying to think what was my last goal. What was it?
It was a while ago.
Shoot, I want to say it might have been relating to socializing, like when it came to the gym or something.
I think it was.
Complimenting people, maybe.
Mm.
I mean, I kind of have been doing that. I mean, now that I'm a personal trainer at the gym, it's been fun to see how that changes everything. I mean, everyone definitely recognizes me and such, but I do want to be better at. Like for example, today I saw this father and this son, and the son had to be like 12 years old, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And I kind of regret not going over to him and like fist bumping him and saying, "Dude, you keep that up. That's awesome, dude. I would have loved Dad to take me to the gym."
Mm-hmm.
So I do. And then the other day I saw a guy, and he was leg pressing like quite a bit of weight, and I felt like I should have complimented him because he was using a lot of effort. I feel like anyone that goes hard, that has an intensity in the gym, deserves a compliment, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I'll continue that goal because I don't think I've been doing as good as I want to do. It's just I want to compliment people in the gym and
Mm-hmm.
create a cool interaction and social aspect for me. And going back to the beginning of the podcast, I feel like that's where my weakness is being alone and solo most of the time. And so I need to make friendships and reach out and meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one area of my life I really want to focus on. And so I'm gonna hit that. I'm gonna create that goal again this week.
I like it. We'll try to find more intellectual friends for us.
Yeah, I'll see if they have any brains besides muscle.
Well, the best probable place would probably be in the gym because that's where people are working on themselves the most.
Sure.
I guess my goal, I just want to finish this book. Now that I'm back in the gym, training regularly, I know I'm going to hit some good workouts. I just want to finish this book, The Psychology of Money, this weekend so I can start a new book this next week. So, Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel. I want to finish it by end of tomorrow night, which I think I can do. So, it's only like 230 pages or something like that. That'll be my goal. Something simple, because we've been slacking on reading. We both have.
Sure.
Pretty hard. But we're back at it, so that's good. All right. Well, that concludes episode...
It's 25 now.
25? God damn. 2 minutes to life. All right. We'll see you guys next week.